Well, thank the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Speaker. The power to tax is the power to destroy. And so when you have the government using that taxing power to target individual Americans based on their exercise of First Amendment rights, that really is the utmost seriousness in terms of the threat that represents to constitutional government. I received a letter from one of my constituents a couple weeks back named Carol McManus, and she is a leader in a conservative group in Northeast Florida, and they're basically dedicated towards educating about constitutional government, individual freedom, the rule of law, traditional American principles. You'd think that would be something that we would be applauding, especially in this day and age. Well, they had to go through this situation with the IRS. So they submitted an application, and they waited for a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year. It took 18 months for the IRS to respond to their inquiry. And when the IRS responded, did they approve the group as would be a matter of course, particularly for groups that were recognized as representing a liberal perspective? No. They were given a list of very intrusive questions about the operation of their group. And I actually saw this firsthand during the 2012 election season, because I went just to shake hands with some folks one night just to see how people were doing, and all the group leaders, they were scared that I was there because they didn't want to get hit by the IRS. They didn't want to do anything wrong. And so what the IRS was able to do by stretching this out, by submitting all these intrusive questions, they really chilled these folks from feeling confident in being able to exercise their First Amendment rights. And they did look scared of what could happen to them just because I happened to show up, even though it's not a partisan event. I was just shaking hands. We were just talking about this stuff. So I appreciate the gentleman from Texas organizing this hour. The frustrating thing about it is, yes, you may have impropriety in any given administration, but what we have now with the IRS is we have a lot of career bureaucrats who have their own ideological bent, people like Lois Lerner, who take it upon themselves to target groups that they think deserve targeting. And the problem with that is nobody ever elected Lois Lerner to anything. It's essentially she's a nameless, faceless bureaucrat that you just got to hope the point of view that you're trying to pursue is not one that she finds objectionable. And that lack of accountability, not knowing whether the bureaucracy will down on you, that's a problem with the IRS. That's a problem in any of these agencies, quite frankly. So I think the more that Americans understand the threat that is posed by a runaway bureaucracy, I think the better. I'd like to see some far-reaching reforms so that we're protecting taxpayers, we're protecting American citizens in the exercise of their right. And you know what? If the bureaucracy steps out of bounds, there ought to be consequences for that. The idea that somehow Lois Lerner is going to retire with full pay and benefits and not having been held responsible at all, even though she couldn't even testify in front of the Oversight Committee, I think that rubs a lot of Americans wrong. So I thank the gentleman from Texas for organizing this, and I really appreciate the attention that you focused on this issue. And so, Mr. Speaker, I will yield back to the gentleman from Texas.